This is Erica Mitchell, and this is Module 11, the case study for EDL 856. So in section 1, I'm just summarizing the situation in the scenario. There is a new parent group that has been formed in a school, and the PTA reorganized and became independent and disassociated with the actual PTA. The new principal was hesitant about the new PTA and them becoming independent. The PTA had the new PTA has some goals, and that's to enhance the community involvement, improve parent participation. They want to revamp the back to school night and make it into back to school meetings where it's more informative. They also want to be involved in the decision-making process and the policy-making process at the school. So the principal held a meeting with the PTA, the new PTA, to discuss their back to school nights. The PTA made it very clear that they wanted to completely change what is normally done at the school. They also established a group of parent committees to address different topics and areas in the school, such as discipline, teacher performance, curriculum, and total school evaluation. So first, looking at the legal and ethical issues of this scenario, the PTA is asking teachers to offer or to be required to spend a few evenings a week during education week, presenting to parents about on different subjects and different topics. They're also asking them to just spend a lot more time out of school hours. So legally, we have to look at the contract, how much contracted time teachers have built in, and if this is going to interfere with that. We also need to think about the expectations of the teachers that the PTA has, and if that goes against anything that's contracted as well. We have to look at the school board policies for parents getting involved and different decision making that parents can have input on. We have to look at PTA, the national PTA rules and guidelines, especially for them becoming independent, and if they went about it the correct way, what does that mean for their funding, and without that affiliation, that puts them at higher risk for a lot of liabilities and legal issues. We also need to look at FERPA, the Student Protection, Privacy Protection Act, and make sure that the new PTA goals and what they're going to do isn't going to go against the rights and the privacy protection of students. So looking at ethical issues, the PTA is overstepping administration. During the meeting with the principal, they made it very clear that this is what they're going to do. This is what they want to do. They have a right since they're parents, and did not include the principal in any of these decisions that they have made. They're also putting a lot of expectations on teachers that is unrealistic. And looking at curriculum and policy decisions, if they're making the decisions, what experience do they have in these subject areas, and what experience do they have within the schools and the curriculum and evaluating teachers and promoting discipline and behavior in the schools? Like, what experience do they have, and are they just making these decisions to have a voice and to be the decision maker? So, synthesizing the scenario, a newly formed parent organization is determined to increase parent education and community involvement by developing extreme changes and expectations for teachers and administration without consent or consideration. So here's what we know about the case. The people involved, the principal, the PTA, or this new parent group of the members of the officers and the members, the president of the parent group, who is a young attorney involved in the law. His occupation is with law. The officers of the parent group, the teachers, and the students also need to be included in the people that are involved. The place is the school. We don't have any demographics. We don't know if it's a specific grade level, if it's a high school, if it's an elementary school. No demographics of the town. The program would be the PTA, and it is a public school. So again, we don't know anything else besides that. So here are the stakeholders in the situation: the principal, the PTA, the parents, the teachers, and the community. The principal is at stake because he's the leader, and if anything falls through or anything, if he hands over the permission like hands permission to PTA to make all these decisions and it totally flops, or students are affected, or there's a legal issue, it's going to fall back on him. The PTA will, since they're not being associated with or affiliated with the PTA, then what legalities come along with that? What rights do they have? So the PTA hasn't consulted with other parents in the school or the teachers to see their willingness. They do have a priority to increase community engagement, but what have they done other than trying to take over the school decision making and policy making? What have they done to increase community engagement? So here's the information we do need. We need to know the demographics of the community, the school, and the PTA. Who's on this parent group, or who's on the board? Who's the officers beyond the president? Like, how do you get involved in this? Is this an open committee for all parents in the school? We need to know the demographics of the school, the size of the school, the demographics of the community, and those facts will be helpful in helping us make a decision on what to do. We need to know the FERPA laws, if the new PTA is aware of the FERPA laws, if they are going to make sure that they're not going against any of those. We also need to make sure we're not going against any Board of Education policies, and the teacher's contract protection. We need to make sure they're protected. We also need to know how they plan to collaborate with teachers and collaborate with the community and implement those changes, or are they just going to come in full force and say, this is what we're doing, this is the changes that need to happen? And what public school laws are in place regarding public or parent involvement? Like, so this is a public school, parents have a right to their child's education, but do they legally have a right to be involved in the policy and decision making process? So we've got some options here. Option one is to do nothing. We just let PTA move forward with their plan. They have their committees. The teachers are required to attend these evenings during Education Week alongside parent-teacher conferences, and the principal just steps back. Option two is we collaborate with the PTA and see how we can work with teachers in administration and the PTA to have to achieve a common goal of school improvement and collaboration. They would make both sides would make compromises, and we're all committed to school improvement. This would include the teachers and staff so that they felt valued and heard. Option three would be to meet with the superintendent, the school lawyer, and the PTA president and determine what the PTA roles are, and just let them loose after we determine those, the guidelines and the roles that they're going to play. So pros and cons of option one, which is to do nothing. The PTA is happy. They are supportive of the school. Those are both pros. We know that they do want to work towards school improvement, and with the strategies in place of getting parents in and giving them multiple evenings and opportunities to be in the school, the parent engagement will improve. The cons are that's a lot of liabilities. You're opening up a whole lot of options for mistakes to happen and liabilities and lawsuits. Also, lack of leadership. If the principal just steps back and is like, PTA is taking over, lack of leadership in my part as the principal. This is not a collaborative method to handle things. You're not collaborating with other parents or the community or teachers. Teachers would become very unhappy that they are not being consulted, and you're just at high risk for letting them choose curriculum and letting them choose different policies. And if they don't have experience, then you're then risking education, you're risking student success, you're going against professionals and so the teachers that know what they're doing. So option two is to collaborate with the PTA. The pros would be it's collaborative. Everybody has a voice. Everybody has a chance to give that input. You could find compromises between the school and the administration and the PTA regarding instead of them just completely taking over, why don't we compromise and see what the teachers are willing to do and how we can make that work contractually as well. This gives diverse perspectives because you're opening it up to being collaborative, and you still have that common goal of school improvement. The cons would be the PTA probably would feel fought against. They spend a lot of time making these committees and deciding on their goals, and they might feel like you are going against them. Also gives a lack of control, and you have a lot of different people giving their input, and that might cause some tension. And you're still at risk for liabilities. Anytime you're getting the more people you get involved, the higher the risk is. So those could be problematic. Option three is meeting with the superintendent and the school lawyer and the PTA president to determine those roles. So especially since the PTA president is in the law field with his job, this could, in meeting with the school lawyer, could help us avoid any legal issues. What we're looking at the contracts, we're looking at the FERPA laws. I think all those things need to be considered, the public education laws for that state. It's collaborative because you're meeting from many parties, and it's giving different leadership perspectives. These are all of the people you're meeting with have different leadership roles within the school district. So you're getting input from people who know what they're doing in that field. So the cons are the teachers are still not involved. This offers a lot of very strong opinions, and it's still a lack of leadership and problem solving. The superintendent might think, why can't the principal handle this? Why can't this be managed by my principal? And I'm having to get all these other parties involved, including myself. So that might not reflect well on the principal. So the best option is option two, to collaborate with the PTA to make the compromises and to commit to improvement. Because this is overall collaborative approach, you're minimizing the risk for all the stakeholders involved. You're including all or most of those parties involved in any decision making that takes place, and you're covering all your bases. You're making the PTA happy, you're making the teachers happy. Overall, you're working towards school improvement, and as long as everybody is willing to compromise, then everybody will be covered. So the first step would be to contact the superintendent, contact the school lawyer, and 3 to 5 teacher representatives. Even though this is option two, option three is the one where you met with the superintendent and the school lawyer, I still think that the superintendent and the school lawyer should be contacted when we're making this compromise. And I think that having 3 to 5 lead teachers included would be beneficial, because that's part of the collaborative part of this option that we're choosing. So as the principal, I would explain the situation. I would develop a desired outcome for the PTA and what role I'm hoping that they have, gather input from them. What do you think the PTA's role should be in our school? I would make sure the school lawyer checks to cover all liabilities. And I would also gather the facts on what teachers want and need from a PTA. They're part of the team. The PTA and the teachers are all part of that school improvement team and working toward a common goal. So they need to make sure that they are heard and they're getting what they want and the resources that they need as well. So the step two would be then to contact that PTA president and explain to him the meeting that you had held prior with the other people. Also then gather his or their list of desired outcomes. What is the PTA's goal? Is it school improvement? Is it collaboration? Is it parent engagement? What is the goal there? And also share the facts about legalities so that they know, like, legally, we can't let you have access to student information. Legally, we can't let you enforce or force teachers to spend time at school that's not in the contract, So share those facts so that they're aware. And as a person that is in law for his occupation, he should be very understanding of these facts that you're sharing with him. And then the last part would be, not the last part, the next part would be to hold a meeting with everyone who's involved. So the PTA, that group, those teacher representatives, the administrator, the principal, and if the superintendent wants to be there and the school lawyer wants to be there as well, they can be. Also, I would also talk to the PTA president about opening who's allowed to be on in this parent group. Can we open this up to all parents? Can we open this meeting? Can we open the opportunity to be engaged to all parents in the school? So I think they should hold a meeting. I would hold a meeting with whoever's involved, and I would explain the goal that the teachers and myself and the superintendent, the role that we want PTA to play in policy making and decision making, and gather everyone's feedback on that. And then discuss the compromises that we could make and eliminate the need for the individual parent committees. If the PTA finds it concerning, the discipline and the evaluation, I would just say those are not areas that the PTA needs to worry about. If you're concerned, then that's something that we can address as a school and for school improvement, but PTA does not need to be involved in the curriculum decisions and in teacher evaluations. That's not their role. So step 4, I would reiterate that the PTA's desired focus is parent engagement and diverse community engagement. So let's focus on those 2 goals. What are we going to do? Let's make a game plan at this meeting. What's the first thing we're going to do to increase parent engagement and diverse community engagement? And then I discussed that the back to school night. Rather than asking teachers to be there out of contract hours, multiple nights, multiple evenings for that week, I would plan a day or one night with a little bit longer extended hours where the principal, would then present on the education process, since a lot of the parents feel that at the back to school night they were not informed of the education process. I would hold a presentation for all parents in the school to explain that education process. Teachers would be made available for questions, and as long as it's contract aligned, teachers could also compromise during that parent teacher conference week and offer a window during that parent teacher schedule to answer questions or give that presentation if they wanted to present to their entire, the parents of all of their students. If they wanted to present on a subject matter, they could offer a window to do that, but would not be required. The PTA president will then, at the back to school night, present on the PTA role the new PTA group is playing in the school decision-making process, and then encourage other parents that are attending the back to school night to be involved and give them different opportunities for involvement, different volunteer opportunities, and open it up to all parents in the school. The next step would be to appoint a contact person from PTA and one teacher, and they would have the goal of community outreach and what we could do to increase community engagement within the schools, coming up with different opportunities, different events, different ideas on ways to get the community involved with the schools. And I think having a member from the PTA and a teacher would be both beneficial because they both have those different diverse perspectives.